Maseches Bava Kama, we are excited as we start the ninth and second to last parak of Bava Kama. A Goizel Eitzim, and that is, which daf is it? You tell me. I think it's Sadi Gimel Amud Beis. Sadi Gimel Amud Beis. A Goizel Eitzim. Shiur Leilu Nishmas Meir ben Yitzchok. And Leilu Nishmas of Meir Menachem ben Akiva. Leilu Nishmas Rus Bas Shalom Sor Bas Moshe Lerefuas. Yidis Bas Rivka Lerefuas. Penina Chaya Bas Giola Rochel. And Baruch Hashem, my grandson came home yesterday. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. My grandson left the incubator and joined the outside world yesterday. Baruch Hashem. Let's give a small introduction. We are going back now to the halachas of a thief, a robber. It says in the Torah, "V'heishiv esagzela shel gozal." If a person stole something, he has to return the stolen object, asher gozal, that he stole. The words that he stole seem to be redundant, superfluous. So what does it teach us? That the gazlan only has to give back the original item if it is in its original state. But if the original item is now significantly different, and what significant difference is, we're going to see now. If it was changed, then he doesn't have to give it back in its new form. That's called kinyan gzela. He now acquired it because it's different and it's a changed thing. What he has to give is cash, kish'as gzela. He has to give lav dafka cash. He has to pay money as according to the worth of the object. For example, look at the Mishnah, and we're going to see the example right away. A goizel eitzim. A person who stole pieces of wood, and the assumption is that the pieces of wood are completely raw. Yeah, completely raw material. Bason Kalim, the Gazlan is a very crafty man, excuse the pun, crafty in more than one way, and he made them into Kalim. He made them into proper products. The whole chair he made. Now he has a chair. Beforehand, they were worth, I don't know how much, a piece of wood, not worth much, worth 100 shekel. That chair is worth 500. What does he do? He keeps the chair, and the 100 shekels cash he gives back to the original owner because he acquired it by kinyan gzela. The details of kinyan gzela we spoke about before, we'll speak about later. I'm not talking now about the Mashiach, the Yush, that's a different story. Semer v'ason b'godim, we're continuing in the Mishnah. Semer, he stole raw wool and made it into nice begodim, garments. What does he do? Mishalim kishas gzela. He has to pay like the original time of the gzela, however much it was worth originally. That's what he has to pay. We're not going now into detail regarding the second and third case, just in general. He stole a cow that was pregnant and she gave birth. He stole a sheep that was full of wool. He shore it. He has to pay. He gives back the para. Yeah. And he gives back the dmei pora medes leiled, meaning that he has to keep the calf to himself because he gave birth. But the difference between an unborn calf and the born one, that's what he has to pay, according to the Meiri. That's how he learns. There's a machlokas here, and also rochel v'nitanetz v'gozzo misham kishas. No, sorry, and the same thing with the wool. Yeah, he has to pay the money of the wool shorn versus not yet shorn. That's a big difference. That's what he has to pay. But the actual wool that he himself shore, that he keeps. Okay? Third case, he stole a cow, and the cow Nisaber Etzl became pregnant, got pregnant in the domain of the Ganev, the Oldo, and then he gave birth. Rochel v'nitan etzloi v'gozazo. The Rochel was bare, was hairless when it came to him. It became full of wool when it was by him, and then gozazo, then he shore it. Then the entire cow and the entire sheep, they stay by him. Why? Because a cow that's pregnant versus non-pregnant, rochel with wool and rochel without wool is significantly different. That's considered as already a very important difference, a change, a real change. And what do we say at that point? You pay like the original time of the gzela, and you keep the animal to yourself, and you paid cash like the original state, which was cheaper that's what the Ganav has to pay to the original owner. Second and third case are not discussed today, so I'm not focusing on them so much. We're going to focus today on the first case. And today will be a very interesting shiur about how do you define change. Last statement, concluding statement of the Mishnah, this is the rule. All Gazlonim pay like Shasek Zela. All the Gazlonim pay like the original time when they stole. The question is, what's the Chiddush? We'll see that in the Gemara. In other words, the amount of money you have to pay is like the amount of money that the item was worth when you pulled it, when you did Kinyan Gzela. Remember Kinyan Gzela? In order to be called a Gazlan, to begin with, you have to do a legal Kinyan. Picking up, pulling, v'chule. Says the Gemara. Oh, now you can see the whiteboard, and I'm sorry that people in the screen cannot see it so well, and people on the phone can't see it that well either. Maybe if you can read, back to front, then it's good. We assume now that the Mishnah speaks about a case. The first case of the Mishnah was about a person who stole an item that was eitzim, pieces of wood. Imagine a piece of wood. What kind of piece of wood? Something that my 7-year-old likes to bring for Parka Elon to our house, Erev Pesach. Some dirty, rough, raw piece of wood that wasn't yet touched by human beings, except for my 7-year-old. So that's a raw material. Then you have to improve it you have to smoothen it. You have to smooth it. You have to plane it, make it nice and smooth. Maybe you want to also, make it whatever, shiny and gloss over it. And then what do you have at the end? After the final stage is you have a whole product. You have a chair, you have a table, you have a box. Okay, that's very nice. And that's called a change. If you moved it all the way from raw material into a finished product, then that's called a change. That's what it sounds like. Okay, that's very nice. But comes the Gemara with a question. Amri, they said in a yeshiva, Eitzim vason kelim in. If you took the wood and made it into kelim, what's kelim? You made it into proper utensils, furniture, products, in. That's called a change. Yes, that's what we call a real change, and the Gazla now acquired it by change. But shifan loy, a luyatsuya from raw material, you mishape, you actually took it and you just improved it by planing it, by smoothing it. Take a raw piece of wood, make it into a nice piece of wood, a nice plank, workable. That's not enough. That sounds like it's not a proper change. And the same thing goes for wool. Semer vason begodim in. You took raw wool, and you then bleached it and cleaned it, which was a long process, and then you made it into a garment. In. Then we say, oh yeah, that's called a change. Libnan loy. But if you just bleached it, by the way, to bleach wool is a very hard process. It's not like you wash your hair in the shower. To bleach wood is the whole there's a thing I think it's called lanolin. It's all kinds of fats and all kinds of materials there that are in the wool that you have to get rid of, and you have to comb it. It's a whole story to bleach. I'm going to discuss it later, to bleach the wool. So it sounds like bleaching the wool alone is not enough of a change. Okay, so far so good. It's not a change. You have to have a real product. You have to have furniture. You have to have a garment. Okay, what's the amini? We're now asked from a different brisa. We're asking from a brisa on the Mishnah. Gozel eitzim v'shipan. You took eitzim. Look what the brisa. See, brisa. The brisa says outright. You took raw material, made it into an improved one. That's good enough. That's called a change. And the Gazlan was koine, and he doesn't have to give the product the way it is now. Doesn't have to return it to the bailim. Gozel eitzim v'shipan. You smoothened them. You planed the wood. Avonim v'sitetan. You took the avonim, stones from someone's yard, and you mesatet them. You also planed them, smoothened them, straightened them. Semer v'libnan. You took wool and you bleached it. Pishtan v'nikau. You took flax, but in its original form, and what? You cleaned it, which is also a change. Mishalem kishasek zela. What is mishalem kishasek zela? You have to pay cash, like the original sin, the original geneva, and not now. In other words, you were koinit, so that's a stira. Our Mishnah requires a whole change, all the way from A to C, from A to Z, all the way to the end to have a real product. Only that's called a change. Well, the Brisa seems to be more lenient and say that once you took raw material and you improved it, you smoothened it, you glossed it, you washed it properly, you bleached it, oh, that's good enough to be called a change. So there seems to be a satira, a contradiction between the Mishnah and the Brisa. Boom. There are going to be two answers. We're going to have two answers from Abaye and from Ravashi. Amar Abaye. Answer number one, you completely got the Mishnah wrong, says Abaye. Tana Didan, our Tana, Tani Shinu de Rabbonon de Hodro. Let me do what Abaye does. Abaye says, you know the story is, you got it all wrong. This is Abaye. Abaye puts one big X, one delete on the raw material. Abaye says, our Mishnah did not talk about turning raw material into good pieces of wood. No. Our Mishnah spoke about Shinu de Rabbonon. What's the Rabbonon? Says the Gemara, the Hadra. The Hadra, what does it mean Hadra? What's Hadran? No, not Mehudar. No. Hadar in Aramaic, not in Hebrew. You're right, in Hebrew. Return. Oh, reverse. Very good. Which means, Abai says as follows. The Mishnah talks about taking pieces of wood that are already improved. Gozal Eitzim, who says the Eitzim look like the Park Ayalon garbage? Eitzim means what? He took nice pieces of wood from the carpenter's workshop, yeah. And what did he do? What? Yeah, but already nicely done, but already polished and nice and smooth and glossy. And what did he do with that? You know what he did? He created with it a modular piece of furniture which can be reversible. In other words, Abai is learning that the change of the Mishnah is a reversible one. Yeah, there's a reversible change here, and only midarabanan it's koine. You took a piece of wood that is already nice and glossy, and you just assembled it in such a way that can be changed, can be taken apart and redone. A modular piece like from IKEA, from all these places, you can sometimes redo, just stick them together a different way. The hodro, it can be reversed. The kol sheken shinu d'oraisa, and all the more so the oraisa shinui, which is real change. Do you realize what just happened here? The Mishnah became much weaker than the Brisa. We thought that the Mishnah talks about taking something raw, making it into a kli, into a mensch. We said, no, just the other way around. The Mishnah speaks about a small change, which means this was a piece of already something glossy and nice, and you stuck them together in such a way that can be easily removed. And that's less than the Brisa. The Brisa stays the same. The Brisa spoke about something raw, right? That became improved. The raw that became improved will never change. If you have a piece of wood that's rough and tough and full of splinters, and you glossed it nicely and you polished it, they will never go back to its original state. Even wool, once you washed it properly and bleached and combed it, it looks completely different, irreversible. So the Brisa talks about a stronger change than the Mishnah. We just turned everything topsy-turvy. And the Mishnah tells us, now let's go back to the Gemara. Tana didan ktani shinu d'rabanan. Line starts with the word shinu d'rabanan dehadra, that is reversible. Yekol shinu d'oraisa, or the more so a change which is the oraisa of the Brisa, when you took something raw and you smoothened it in a way that is irreversible. The Brisa is irreversible. Here, irreversible. The Brisa is irreversible change, which is of course from the Torah, not just midrabanon. And what does it say? Now let's reread the Mishnah. Eitzim ason kelim. Eitzim, when the Mishnah said eitzim wood, they made into a keli. The eitzim is shupin. We're talking about eitzim already meshuyaf. In modern Hebrew, we also say meshuyaf. It's already straight, smooth, planed. They're called planks, nice pieces of wood. The shinu dehodo lebriyosahu. It's called a shinu that can go back to its original state. You know why? The ibai, if you want, mashlif lehu, lishlof, you can draw it out. You have today, even today, have such pieces of furniture. Yeah, you can modulate it the way you want. You can stick it here, stick it there. There are no nails, and no what's his name, no nails, and no glue. You can undo them whichever way you want and rebuild them. That's the story of our Mishnah. Temel. What about the wool that we spoke about in the Mishnah? Temel vason godim. You took the wool and made it into clothes, into garments? No, it's not talking here about raw wool that became all the way to become some fancy suit. No, the tzemel tovui, The tzema, once stolen already, the tzema, while being stolen, was ready tavu, which means spun, which means it was really in the shape of what? Of threads, the ready fibers and threads. The shinu dodol b'yasu. All you did was you just made it into some kind of primitive kind of sweater or shal or some kind of scarf, and you can very easily undo and unravel those pieces of those threads. The ibai, if you want, sasarle, you can actually be soiser, you can unravel it quite easily. So the Mishnah actually spoke about the change from point B to C, from an improved product into a final product, into a real final product, but in a way that can be reversed. And that's all Chiddush of the Mishnah. And even such a change we define as a real change, Midarabbanon. Only Rabbanon said that, because that's a big Chiddush, because everyone's going to ask, it's not a real change. Rabbanon decided, for the sake of the Gazlan, this is good enough of a change. Because shekin shinu deoraisa, or the more so shinu deoraisa, of course the Mishnah agrees to the Braisa that talks about real change, which is IR, irreversible. Yeah? Irreversible change. Because to take wool, which was very, very rough and raw just shorn off the back of the sheep, it looks very, very, very messy and tangled and full of oil and full of gook. And when you change it and you bleach it, that bleaching with materials, with heat, they used to bleach it even today with heat inside an oven. It says so in the Mishnah, in the Gemara in Shabbos, daf Chof, daf Yitches. 1 second, please. I'll be with you in a minute, Yosef. So such a change, which is irreversible, of course such a change is what is acceptable, and the Gazlan acquired it that way. The Tana Bara and the Braisa, Tana Boro is a Braisa, the exterior Tana, Shinu Doraisa Ktani, the Shinu Dorabanan Lo Ktani. They don't argue. The Braisa happened to be talking only about Shinu Doraisa, real change. Shinu Dorabanan Lo Ktani. The Braisa chose not to speak about Shinu Dorabanan, but it doesn't mean that they argue, by the way. One spoke about Doraisa. The Braisa is actually the more, funnily enough, the Braisa is actually the more conservative, classical, normal change. Irreversible change. That's a change. The Mishnah wanted to be more daring, one step forwards, and said, you know what? Even reversible change, to take the piece of wood, which was already nice and beautiful, perfectly ready pieces of wood, he stole them from the carpenter's workshop, and he made them into something modular and nice, but that can be taken apart. Says Rashi, like a teva or a cathedra, he built from it a box, something primitive, box or a stage, such a thing that can be taken apart. Even that is called a change, but could be the price agrees to that too. Yosef, you've been very patient, very nice. I'll write a note for you. Yeah. No, so Rabbanan say otherwise. I expected that. Come Rabbanan and say it's also a change. He invested in it, and he built it that way. He did this, that, and the other. Now you have a new product. By the way, Laloch, it's not like that. You don't worry. And since you have a new product, even though it can be taken apart, by the way, when I say no glue and no what's his name and no nails, I'm not sure I'm right. I have to look again in Shulchan Aruch, because could be that if it's so changeable, so easily reversible, could be it's different. But even if you have nails, yeah, even if I can pull them out and it still looks nice and rather okay to still reuse. But it's a change. It's a change. Oh wow, all the way from Prague. Shlomo is here. Yeah. So then, Rabbanan decided that's called a change. But I do want to check for you, what does Shulchan Aruch say about how irreversible it has to be? Yes, I'm listening. You're good? Yes, Alan, my friend. Use just a little bit a second for you.
The Mishnah.
I remind you, people now in the commercial break, we're asking about the whole concept of Shinu and Ganev. I just want to remind you of the famous Yisod of Rabbi Chanan Wasserman. When a person was koine by Hagbo, by Mashiach, the item of his friend, without his friend's permission, he was koine. It's his. Elamai. What do you mean it's his? It's his. But there is a pasuk in the Torah in Vayikra Hey, if I remember correctly, the Hey Shivas Exela Shargozal, Hey Shivas Exela, Hey Shivas Exela, Hey Shivas Exela, Hey Shivas Exela, red alert. This item has whispers of Hey Shivas Exela sitting on it and not allowing the Ganav to really own it, even though he, Hey Shivas Exela returned the item. But a Shargozal, once it's not a Shargozal, once it changes its original form into a whole new form, a really new form, whatever that means. The Yeshivas Exela goes out the window, and the item is his plus Yush, by the way. Remember that sometimes we have Yush also into the story, is also thrown into the equation, that the original person is not looking for it anymore. Now, you're going to say, well, this is Dom Moira? No, it's not Dom Moira. Of course, he has to pay cash. He has to pay cash for the original item. But this new item, the chair, the thing that he bought, the box that he created, according to about even reversible, is a new box. This box, the Pasuk Veheshiv, flew out the window. So now it's his. Doesn't he pay? Of course he has to pay. Just like you bought yesterday something by credit because the guy trusted you, a friend, and today you come up with the money. That's the best I can come up with now, since it's not a Shiur. But this is for now. Let's live with this, and we'll see how it goes along. Let's continue now with Ravashi. Ravashi Yoma, line starts with Ravashi. Ravashi has a different shot arguing with Abaye. Again, what was the question that both Abaye and Ravashi have to answer? There was an apparent stira. There was an apparent contradiction between Zoom and I. Between what's his name? Between the Mishnah that said in the Havamina, raw material made into a kli, right? And the Brisa says raw material made into a nicer material, but not a whole kli. And Abaye answered, no, the Mishnah talks about stage B to C, and the Brisa A to B, but they're not arguing. Each one, the Rabban and the Brisa. Now, Rav Ashi says differently. No, he says. Our Mishnah talks about a shinu d'oraisa. Shinu d'oraisa means irreversible. Rav Ashi is your friend, people. Rav Ashi says, I don't believe you, Abaye. No, I don't believe you. I don't hold of what you say. You say that a shinu that's reversible is good enough. No, it ain't good enough. So what's shot in the Mishnah? How can the Mishnah then not contradict the Brisa? Let me make a new picture here. Now comes Rav Ashi's Mishnah. The Mishnah, according to Rav Ashi, is like this. Raw material that's made all the way into a product, and that product is very primitive product. What do I mean? Up until now, we thought that there are two stages. First, you make it from raw material into nice, glossy, good piece of wood. And then from that piece of wood, you make the next step, which is a stender, which is a box. Says Rav Ashi, and soon you'll understand the genius of so many things he's gaining by that. He says, no, you take a raw piece of wood, you change it, make it nice and glossy and fancy and nice piece of wood, and that is the kli. Meaning both Brisa and Mishnah spoke about irreversible change. You took something raw full of splinters and hairs and everything, if it's the wool, whatever, you made it nice, glossy, fancy. And that's it. No steer Mishnah and Brisa, no Darabbanans. All my friends from the Amud Yomi love me now. Why? Reversible change is not good enough. We're not so being not so easy on the Gazlan. Elamai. The only problem is that the Mishnah said kalim. How can you call a piece of wood kli? Well, guess what? Is there anything in the world that's a raw piece? Not raw. It's a nice piece of wood that's a kli by itself, for example. A what? Very nice. You mean an ore? An ore. What? An ink well. Okay. Or a piece of wood is a upand. It's a pestle and mortar. What? No, the kroshim is not a good example because they're part of something bigger. Says you got it. Now let's see it inside. Ravashi Omar. Our Tana also speaks about a shinu d'oraisa which is irreversible, and the Mishnah and the Brisa are good friends. Eitzim son kalim. It says kalim. How can you call a piece of wood kli? Buchani. You know it's buchani, pestle and mortar. You take the pestle is a piece of wood, a baseball bat. I thought, who am I talking to? Americans. I played baseball once in my life. There was one time too much. Yeah, baseball. You know what baseball is? No, I know you don't. So then, the cricket. Yeah, the kids say you have a big bat, and that bat is a piece of wood which is nice and round and this, and that's it. But that's a piece of wood. Yeah, a club. Yeah. Dahainu shipan, and that is the case of smoothing them. So Mimela, Mishnah and Bryce are friends. The Mishnah said Kalim, that's a kli. Very nice. They're saying the same thing. Semer vason b'godim. How can you have tzemer wool turned into b'godim and it's a raw piece? Namti. You know it's namti? Felt. Ever saw a black hat? A Haredi black hat? It's felt. Felt. What's yes. Felt meaning what's felt? It's compressed. What's the name's material that's compressed together without being woven. It's not woven together. So basically, dainu shinu the lohoda shinu doesn't change, which means it's irreversible. On one hand, the black hat cannot go back to be wool, but lemaisa you skip the stage of combing and doing and all that. There are no three stages. It's one stage. You have raw wool that became straight away in its raw state. It became now something, a piece of felt. Very good. Very nice. So Mimela, Mishnah and Bryce agree, and there's no shinu reversible. The reversible shinu of Abaye, the way he read the Mishnah, is rejected by Rav Ashi, and that's what the halacha says. It changes completely reversible. It's not good enough, and the Ganav has to really give back the actual item to the original owner. Frag the Gemara now a new question on the same idea, on the same item. Frag the Gemara v'libun mihavi shinui. It's all very nice what your Magichir is telling you, but is it really true that libun meaning to bleach, take the wool and bleach it, is that really called shinui? What's bleaching? You take the raw wool and you comb it very well, you put it in the water and wash it with detergent and stuff, you put it in the hot, in a tanur, something like that, and becomes nice and bleached and white and nice. Yeah, saras, kitsemer halovon, one of the four main colors of saras is like white wool. Very nice. But is that called a change? Just because you whitened it, you bleached it, is that called a real change? Let's see. Let's see. I'm not sure if it's a Mishnah or Bryce. I didn't sit inside in Chulin. Here comes a statement from like a Mishnah regarding Reishis Agez. Reishis Agez. What?
Yes, but it's not a change, which is a real topic.
Huge nafkamina. We said here in the Brisa that if you took wool, no, not compressed. No. That's not the case when you skipped it into felt. You skipped the stage. Regular raw wool. You stole wool from somebody in Australia, a lot of wool over there, and you bleached it yourself, cleaned it and combed it, yeah, also. And now what? And now you have bleached wool. Whether that's called significant change or not, we're going to see, not just because of what I'm saying, but mainly because of what we're going to see now from different sources. What I'm trying to say is, Misvara, let's say you colored it, you dyed it, that's a whole new color that cannot be removed. You turned it green, black, blue, that's different. But if you just bleached it, which means really very, 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 very thorough, good cleaning, is that a change or not a change? We're going to see it's a discussion in the Mishnah. I wouldn't like questions now because let the Tanoim talk and then we'll get into the business. What's Reishis Agez? Reishis Agez is the person has how many sheep? 5. He has 5 sheep and they all have 1.5 of wool. I don't know how much that is. That's a lot of wool on each sheep. Now he has to give Reishis Agez one of the 24 matanos that are given to the Kohanim, not to the priests, my friend, to the Kohanim. The priest gets a lot of money from everyone's confession, so leave him alone. But now the Kohanim, they get 24 matanos. One of the Reishis Agez, a person has to give certain amount of wool from each one of the 5 sheep that are, once he has 5 sheep, I don't know if each and every one, I think so, he has to give a matana of the Reishis Agez to the Kohen. I want to tell you 2 things. First of all, as opposed to Meiser, once you set aside Meiser or Truma, to be more both, Truma, that belongs to the Kohanim, right? You're not allowed to touch it, you have Misa. The Reishis Agez doesn't work like that. Reishis Agez is basically, even if you set it aside to the Kohen, it doesn't belong to the Kohen. Not only that, there's no one particular Kohen that it belongs to. It belongs to any Kohen in the world. Kahana, Kahanovich, Azulai, any Kohen can take it. Yeah. So it's a very sort of up in the air kind of matnas kehuna where I have to give it, but let's read it now. Lo he speak litnoi loy. I did not yet give my piece of wool that I have to give to the Kohen. I did not yet give it to the Kohen. Achetzvoi, but I dyed it. I didn't dye Baruch Hashem. I just dyed the wool. Yeah, he dyed the wool. Now the wool is what? Is all different. Potu. I don't have to give it to the Kohen. Why? Because I owe the Kohen a piece of wool. But that original piece of wool that I became chayav when I shore it, that's not the same piece of wool. It's a new piece of wool. So similar to the Gazlan, I now don't owe him that piece of wool. I owe him a white piece of wool, a green piece of wool that I dyed green. I don't owe that to the Kohen. As opposed to payros through a meiser, it's very volatile. Yeah, it's very changeable. So once it's a different item, that's it. A green wool is not white wool and it's definitely irreversible. Yeah, can I make my jacket now? It's made out of 50% wool, I think. Yeah, can't make it white anymore, right? That's it. It's irreversible. That's a real change, and it doesn't belong to the coin anymore. And no coin can claim against me, because I can always say it could have gone to another coin. Now it stays by me. Libnoi velot tzvoi. Oh, what happens if I bleached it, but I did not color it? I just bleached it. Chayev. Chayev what? To give it to the coin. Oh, if I only bleached it, it stays halachically the same. And I still have to give it to the coin, and I'm not considered as someone who, what? Has a whole new piece of wool. It's considered the old piece of wool. If so, that seems to be against our Mishnah, against our Brisa. Even though it's bleached, it still stays halachically the same. It's just the same thing, just cleaner. That's how we view it all of a sudden. So what's the difference? Amar Abai lo kasha, says Abai, it's very, very easy. It's a machloikes tanoim, easy. Oh, Rabbi Shimon harabonon. There seems to be a Tanaic dispute between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbanon whether bleaching is called Shiur or not called Shiur. Welcome to the Gemara, Machloikes, Netanya. I'll prove it to you. Abai chas v'shalom, not stam, up his sleeve. He has a source. Netanya, gozezoi. Let's say you took the piece of wool and you shore it, tvoi ve'arogoi, and you either tvoi, you spun it, ve'arogoi, you wove it, but not weaving that's done after the spinning, but primitive kind of weaving, says Toysfos. Ein mitzaref. What does it mean, ein mitzaref? How many sheep are you supposed to shear in order to this? 5. Let's say after sheep number 1, Dolly, I took the wool and I made it into, and I spun the one genetically engineered, yeah? And I spun it. It's not mitzaref to the other 4. It doesn't join the other 4. It's kilo only have 4 and 1 with the divider between them. So I don't have to give it to the Kohen. Yeah, that's a way out. Not that I recommend to do it, but that's how it can be done. Libnoi. Let's say I took Dolly's wool after shearing, and I want to separate her from the others, not to create an accumulation of 5. And I stop and I bleach it very well. Is bleaching called a change that now exempts me and takes it out of the group because it's an exempted piece of wool? Depends. Bleaching is a machloikes, just like Abai promised us. Rabbi Shimon Omer ein mitzaref. Rabbi Shimon say no, it does not join with the others because bleaching is called a change good enough, strong enough to set it aside and exempt it from Reshis Agez. The Chachamim are mitzaref. Chachamim say bleaching is an improved piece of wool. It's not, reversible or not. It's just wool at the end of the day. So what's the story? And therefore, Chachamim definitely say that it's not called change. And in Chachamim, who are not the masters of the Brisa, our Brisa that says that bleaching, improving, i.e. bleaching, is called a change, is Rab Shimon, legit. Chachamim don't hold that way. Welcome to Machloikes. That's Abaye. Rove Omar. Rove now wants to be more focused on Rab Shimon. Rove argues with Abaye, and he reconciles the steer in a different way. Hava Reb Shimon, both Brises, Libun yes and Libun no, are both Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon sometimes believes Libun is a change, sometimes not. Below Kasha, it's not difficult. Ha de naptzei niputzi. Ha de salkes ruki. What's lehistarate? Lenapetz. Very good. Lenapetz is to comb with your hands, not in modern Hebrew. Niputz also in the Hilchos Shabbos. The napetz is to comb with your hand. I can't show it on my hair anymore yet. To comb with your fingers, that's called niputz. And that's not such a strong change because as you bleach it, you also have to comb it. It's one of the melachos of Shabbos. So when you're menapets with your hands, that's not such a change. The wool is still a bit more, is more like entangled, yeah. But if you mamish combed it with the strong combs, that they have very strong combs nowadays, also from iron, for the wool, yeah. When you mamish comb it well with the proper comb, yeah, that's irreversible and choshuv and different and significant, and that's called a change. Even within Rabbi Shimon, depends how well you combed it. If it's just with your fingers, it's not enough of a change. With a strong comb, that's called a change. That was the second answer. Third answer, Rabbi Chia bar Abin Omar. Rabbi Chia bar Abin says the third answer. Yeah, also differentiating within Rabbi Shimon. Yeah, within Rabbi Shimon himself. Rabbi Chia bar Abin Omar. The Chavre Chivuri. Yeah, here Chavre Chivuri means he just bleached it, but without materials, without detergent, without sulfur. Oh, the Chavre Chivruye. Chavre Chivruye means that, says Rashi, he actually used gofris. Gofris sulfur. Oh, sulfur, yeah, you use sulfur, that's detergent, that's strong, that's chemicals. When you use chemicals, use chemicals, that's called bleaching by me. And Mimel, such a change is choshev a change and would render kinyan for rishis against or for the gazlan. And the Brisa spoke about not the Brisa. The other Brisa spoke about Chavre Chivuri when you just washed it, cleaned it not so well, and Mimela, that's not called a change within Rabbi Shimon. But bear in mind, all these differences within Rabbi Shimon. Chachamim say bleaching is not a difference. Yeah, Chachamim say no way. Bleaching is not called different. It's the same thing but nicer. Yeah, as opposed to a wood which is all different completely. Brag the Gemara, Hashta. Now comes a new question based on that on Rabbi Shimon himself. Who we have a lot to go. Hashta. Now you have to skip the words Yesh Lomar. The Girsa here on the side deletes the words Yesh Lomar, the Bach. Hashta. Now, you okay, Alan? Yeah. Hashta. Sova. What's Sova? What's Litzboa? To die. Yeah. Sova Rabbi Shimon lo havishinui. Wow. I'll prove to you soon that coloring, dyeing, color is not called a change, according to Rabbi Shimon. Libun havishinui. Obviously, every Kita Aleph kid could tell you a different color, which we assume is irreversible and looks very different, is more of a shinui than washing and cleaning and bleaching. And yet Rabbi Shimon seems to go against logic. He's telling me, soon we'll see, that coloring, dyeing is not called shinui. And Rabbi Shimon is one who holds bleaching is shinui. What's going on over here? Tanya, look at the Brisa. Gozaz Rishon Vitzvoi. This man is not stupid, but he's actually yes stupid, but he thinks he's smart. He wants to prevent Mr. Cohen from getting what he needs. Yeah. Mr. Sheep owner has 5 sheep, but he's a miser. Maybe he's very poor. Let's be down the maybe he's not so frum. I don't know. But he doesn't want to give his reshis a guess. So what does he do? Each sheep, before he shears the other one, he dyes the wool. He dyes it. So now he wants to separate that from the others. Yeah, I have one, which I'm not mechuyev to give. Rishon v'tzvoi. Rishon, and each one that you spin into a thread. Also, Rishon ve'arogoi, or the other one, each one you weave into mamish fabric, and mitztaref. You're not mitztaref. Each and every of those actions make the wool potur from gez and does not join the other sheep. It's a separate ptur department. It has a ptur. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda Omer, Mishum Rabbi Shimon, listen carefully to the words. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda, on behalf of our Rabbi Shimon of our sugya, says tzvoi mitztaref, oy vavoy. Tzvoi mitztaref. Even though you dyed it shocking pink and purple red polka dots, mitztaref, which means that dyeing is not called a change. It still joins with the other sheep, and you'll all have to give it at the end of the day to the kohen. And your trick doesn't work. In other words, painting is called, or dyeing is called, yes, not called a shinui. It's not called a shinui. You have to give it to the kohen. And Rabbi Shimon is one who says bleaching is called, coloring is not, and bleaching is yes. Amar Abai lo kasha. Abai again has an answer to do with who says what, like before. It's a matter of machloekes and opinions. Says Abai, calm down, mister. Oh, Rabbanon libed Rab Shimon. Oh, Rab Shimon ben Yehuda libed Rab Shimon. What did I tell you? Mark the words. The one who spoke now is Rab Shimon ben Yehuda quoting Rab Shimon. He is the one who thinks that according to Rab Shimon, painting, dyeing is not called shinui. And of course, washing and bleaching is not shinui as well. That's Rab Shimon ben Yehuda quoting Rab Shimon. But Rabbanan quoting Rab Shimon, they think that Rab Shimon said that everything is a shinui. No problem. No difference between dyeing and bleaching. According to Rab Shimon ben Yehuda quoting Rab Shimon, none of them is called shinui. And according to Chachamim, they're all called shinui. It's called in modern English machlekes. In Polish, they say machlokes. My brother told me. Yeah, machlokes. Machlokes, not a problem. Rave Omar, here comes the big chiddush. Rave says no. I disagree with you, Abaye. Rave disagrees with Abaye yet again and says no. I don't think there's a machlokes here between the Tanoim, Rabbanan, Rab Shimon, and Yehuda on how to interpret Rab Shimon. I have a different shot. Yes, coloring sometimes or dyeing is less than bleaching. The shiny tseva, color is different, or dye, paint, because colors today they're much stronger. Colors in the olden days, or dyes, or whatever you want to call them, they are what? They can be removed by tzafon. You know what tzafon is? Sabon. You know what sabon? Soap. That's tzafon, sabon. First time I saw it, tzafon. Because people from Tzfon Tel Aviv are very clean and they're very snobbish and very aesthetic. Okay? Alidei tzafon. At the tzfoni anchik, the tzfoni is yetzer hara. But because the color you can remove, mashenk and the bleaching you can't reverse. As you know what I'm saying? The color looks very different outwardly, but if you work hard enough, I don't think today's colors, yeah, but back then, the color, the dye can be removed if you really work hard. The bleaching, funnily enough, looks more similar, but it's irreversible. You can't bring back all the lanolin and all these materials that were there before. It's really different in a way that maybe seem more similar, but that whichever change there is less reversible. Mimele says Reb Shimon, I don't go by the looks, I go by what's internally important. And therefore the tseva is what? Reversible and is not called a shinui, not called a change, and you're not koine, and you have to give it to the kohen. Mashenke and bleaching is called shinui because it's irreversible. You can't bring it back to its original form. You actually took out some of the vital materials of the wool. 1 second. V'chi ktani hosom lo yispika la'ilitno lo yi'achetzvoi potu. But we saw a brisa that says lo yispik litno lo yi'achetzvoi potu v'ukimna kidiv hakol. There was a brisa that said what? That he did not yet manage to give it to the Kohen, and then he dyed it, and he's potter, dying potter, ukimna kidiv hakol. And we said that that's agreed upon by everyone. How can you say that? We said dying, everyone agrees, including Rabbi Shimon, that that's called a change. How can you say it's a change? Rava just said the dying is not a change. Says Rava, bekala ilan deloy ova. Ever heard the word kala ilan? You know about the tchelis? Some people nowadays, they have a tchelis in the tzitzis, right? Yeah? So, tchelis is the real thing from the sea creature, and kala ilan was fake tchelis. Kala ilan is like also this blue, purplish, bluish kind of dye, which looked very similar to tchelis, but was fake, and that's mentioned in Menachos. And people can dye with kala ilan, which is much cheaper, and they can lie in shidduchim that the word tchelis, and back then it was a maila. So now what? Kala ilan is irremovable. Kala ilan is a dye like 2022. Even back then, kala ilan, you can wash it all day long. It's not going to get off. The loy oval, it can never go back. Yeah, that's it. Stays there for life. It's a die hard. Very good. So Rava has it all set very nicely. What does Rava say? Again, let's summarize. We know that Reb Shimon in general was always more pro saying that libun is a change, right? Everyone agrees that Reb Shimon holds libun is a change. Is this right? Bleaching is a change, that's for sure. Chachamim say it's not a change. Within Reb Shimon, we said maybe there's a difference. Maybe bleaching with real material, with detergent, with chemicals is change. Otherwise, it's not. Maybe combing it with your fingers is not a change. Combing with a comb is a change. But then came another question. Rabbi Shimon is the one who said that coloring, dyeing, is not called a change. How could that be? Says Rabbi, yeah, because most colors back then in times of the Gemara, if you really work hard with even today with bleach, you could actually. Yes, bleach removes the color, and that's a big problem. Yes, bleach you can remove colors. On your suit, it's the end of your nice Shabbos suit. Yeah, bleach economica on your Shabbos suit is the end of the story. Yeah. So if you use economica, which is a tzafon, then the color can be removed. So mimela it's reversible. The shenka, when it comes to what? To bleaching, it's not reversible. The dafka, it's more of a change according to Shimon. When is it that it's a change? The kulala, kala ilan. Kala ilan can never ever be removed. That's a different kind of color, which everyone agrees it's considered as a very detrimental, important change, and everyone would agree. Reb Shimon Rabbanon, that such a thing is for sure change, and you're koine. Yeah, you took the wool and you improved it with ala ilan. Can never be taken off. We have to invent a commercial for kala ilan. Yeah, your color forever. And then what? Then everyone agrees that's a shinoi. Yes, Rabbi. Quick one. Yes. Right. Abaye. Says Abaye. Abaye is one Amoira that many times his Torah was to collect and connect many different opinions of Tanoim from different places, like Lahavdil, like a trivia show, name all the different things that are connected to one thing. That's what Abaye did. Says Abaye, Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda, Ubet Shammai, Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Rabbi Shmuel. He's now connecting and collating 5 Tanoim. Hulu Svira Lehu. All of them have a common denominator in different aspects. Shini bim koima oimed. All these 5 Tanoim, which I'm collecting from different places, my general knowledge, says Abaye, they all believe that Shinui is not really effective. Bim koima oimed means it stands by its place. A Shinui, they all sort of are partially koifer and disagree with the concept of Shinui. As much as here we see all the time Shinui is the name of the game, those 5, they are not completely convinced that Shinui is something that works in halacha, and he's going to detail each and every one. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda, or the Amaron. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda, remember, he's the first one in Abaye's list. Or the Amaron, we just saw now. Remember, what did he say? Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar said on behalf of Rabbi Shimon that the tzeva is mitzaref. If you painted and you dyed the wool, you can dye it all day long. It's not called a change. Maybe because it's reversible, maybe otherwise. That's one. B'shamai mahi. The second in the list of Abaye of anti-Shinui people is B'shamai. Where do you see B'shamai? And we saw that, by the way, many moons ago. The Tanya. Nosan lechitin be'esnono. Remember the din in the Torah. There are 2 items that cannot be brought to the Mizbech even after they were changed, and that is the Esnan Zoina and Mechir Kelev. Lotabi Esnan Zoina Mechir Kelev Beis Hashem Elokecha Ki To'evas Hashem Elokecha. I think Gam Shnehem. Both the money given to a Zoina for hard work and also the Mechir Kelev. In other words, you swapped a dog for a sheep. You cannot bring that sheep to Beis Hamikdash. Okay. Says the Gemara, Nosan lochitin besnono. Let's say a man gave a zoino as her, I don't know how to call it, salary. In Hebrew, the special word esnan for what she gets. And he gave her chitin, he gave her grains of wheat. He gave her some kernels, grains of wheat. The asaon, really, I saw the gear says asaon. She did it. She's a very industrial person, the zoino. She works both day and night. So what did she do? Asaon, she made them into silas, into nice, fine, not semolina, yes, semolina, fine flour, right, also semolina. She made it into flour, she changed it. She got for the esnan chitim, she made an irreversible change into flour. Yes, she does both. She keeps 2 jobs, she's a very busy person. So then, Vasan Silas, they seem ado money. They seem vaston shemen. he gave her zaysim, he gave her olives, the client, and she made out of that oil. That's very irreversible, yeah. Anovim baston yain, he gave her grapes, she made wine, she does it all. Tanichad. Now, hey, wait a second. Can she bring it to Beis Hamikdash? She's also very religious, and she wants to bring a mincha to Beis Hamikdash. She's the whole thing. So now, can she bring all these three items, my friends, are Mizbech items in general, I'm speaking, not her. Yeah, soil zayis, yeah. Can she bring it to Beis Hamikdash? Maybe, because why? It's different. She knows the halacha. She knows. She knows she cannot bring what she got. Now the Zoyna comes and claims, listen, it's not what I got. It's very different. It's the shinui. She says it's a different item. Maybe this item, Tonim Chadoshes Bo'olechan, I can bring that to Beis Hamikdash. Is she right or not, Miss Zoyna? Yeah? Can she bring it to Beis Hamikdash in its reformed new form? Yes or no? Tani Chada Osu, but Tani Chita Chmutar Mechloikes. One Tana says she's allowed to. The other one says mutter. The other one says she's not allowed to. But who says what? Omar of Yosef, Tani Gurin de Maspurak, Gurion, a Tana called Gurion from the city of Aspurak says, Beshamai Oisrin Besilon Matirin. The ones who forbid it are Beshamai, usually the stricter ones. Besilon Matirin, Besilon. Nobody says, by the way, the Zoner is a good person, but I'm saying that the Eved that's allowed once changed, that's Besilon. My time at the Beshamai. Why is it the Beshamai do not allow it? We'll have to finish soon. Basically, Beshamai say, although we usually believe in Shinui, Beshamai don't completely disagree with Shinui. It's a whole sugya. But because the Torah adds an extra word, Gam Shneim, and I actually quoted to you before, don't bring to Hashem's house Gam Shneim, also both of them. What do you mean also both of them? What do you mean also? What else is there? What are you coming to add? Says Bishamai, L'rabois Shinuyehem, Gam Shnehem, also with Shnehem Shinuyehem, right? Gam Shnehem comes to tell you, Hem, including the Shinuyehem, even their improved, changed forms, Shinuyehem, can also not, should not be brought to Beis Hamikdash. Let me just one more line and we'll finish. Basil Hem v'lo Shinuyehem. Basil says no, Hem v'lo Shinuyehem, excluding the Shinu. We'll see it tomorrow. Basil will learn just the other way around. Only they cannot be brought as opposed to Shinuyehem, but the Gemara is going to have a bit of discussion between Bisham and Basil. But the Shama, generally speaking, are against believing in Shinui, and they say, although it was changed, it's still also to be brought to the Mizbeach. And actually, I saw in the Meforshim, the reason why you do not accept that from the Zoino, because she wants to atone for her bad deeds through bringing it to Beis Hamikdash. Many people say, the money is not so kosher, I'll donate it to yeshiva. It's actually worse, you know. He has funny money. He says, okay, I'll use it for tzedakah. No, it doesn't atone for the fact you stole it. You know what I mean? So because this woman is involved with very immoral things, and she wants to bring it to Beis Hamikdash to like cleanse herself, that doesn't work. Beis Hamikdash is not a laundry place, you know. And she's laundering the money, exactly. And that we don't accept. Thank you very much. Bezos Hashem tomorrow. No, I don't think so. No. I don't think Shama. No, I think Basil will win, as far as I remember. I have another answer for you. Anyway, the shiur is over. Kol tuv.